Okay, we are live on YouTube. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another stream. This is part 2 of the topic of mind control. Oh, hold on a second. Sorry about that. This is, again, part 2 of the topic of trauma-based mind control and how it and the range of it, from generational child abuse on up to the most severe type of trauma-based mind control, which involves, child sex trafficking and this sort of thing. But so today we're going to talk about how to heal and deprogram from this. The first part 1 was about what is it? And so we kind of covered that. So my guest is Jordan. Jordan, go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we will get started.
Okay, I'm Jordan Von Erickson. I have a podcast called Straight Outta BS Podcast. It's a podcast for survivors. When I was 16, I got sent away to a cult, spent 22 months there, spent a lot of time in solitary confinement, writing sentences, stuff like that. And when I got out, I got heavy and did hard drugs, and I'm 3.5+ years sober off that. And I decided I wanted to give back to the community. So I decided to start a podcast for survivors, and I have done over 148 interviews. I'm still conducting interviews. I have the next 2 months booked out. So we're making progress and giving a voice to these children that have no voice in these places.
Awesome. Thank you, sir. All right. So let's kind of put out sort of a base for what we're talking about. So mind control, I think that the most simplest way to look at this topic is it is different. I want to say it's external input that causes a person who is in real time to get trapped in their inner realm, get trapped in the imagery inside, get trapped in time. So when a child is born, a child is cooing, and it's like being, in the best scenarios, the giant, the parent, is mirroring back their love, and the child's like, oh, and there's flow and there's movement, and there's nothing that's stopping and freezing and causing the child to do this. The idea is flow in the outer, what I call the mortal realm, so that the inner soul can grow, so the psycho-emotional energy can move and grow. How do you control a human sentient being? Is to traumatize it and program it. And this is where we get religion, which is ideas about reality that are injected into the child. This is hereditary religion, causes the child to adopt a story, and all it is a story. You're born in sin. Jesus is coming back. Real quick, I want to say hello to our moderator, Tim, and hello, all Wizzens. By the way, quick update. I got actually a lot of headway on the Wizen program, the Wizen book this weekend, for those of you who know what I'm talking about. Very exciting. So, and this all ties into what's going on with the Wizen Mystery School, the growing of the soul, the deprogramming, being able to see what's false versus what's real, which is how the mortal realm, the nature world, reflects the inner realm. It is a dance between the two. It's natural, it's organic. You are a expression, a manifestation of the universe. That is what you are. You are a form that is organically grown, and that's what you are by the universe, and that's what you are, a default self, awareness, essence. Outside of that is where we, as in present time, awareness, get trapped into imagery and story and such. It takes us out of the present time pole into time, and this is where trauma exists, where we have these incidents that occur when we're children or we're in a cult or whatever. You have PTSD, and you're suffering from an event that occurred And so inside, there's a part of you that's trapped in that moment in time, So the undoing, which we're going to talk about today, the undoing of what is false, that is held together through psycho-emotional energy, which is how it causes a person to be in a trance in a cult, which is how it causes a person to be an adult child that is completely deluded by psychological complexes, which are these complexes of I'm not loved, I'm not worthy, I am bad. So when a child is, whether it's religion, it's the story imposed upon the child, or it is the trauma and the story of the parent that is rooted in their unconscious, is dumped into the child, and that story is from the parent inherited through the ancestral bloodline. Like for me, my ancestral bloodline is, amongst other things, there's a lot of generational child abuse in my from both sides. And since I was a child, I could feel and sense the suffering of my ancestors inside of me. Very dark, very deep, very depressing to carry the souls inside of my bloodstream. So I'm just creating a base here before we get into it. So so you've got the religious programming, and then you have the parental programming. And if a parent has the command that they haven't seen, because when you see it, it dissipates. This is the idea of being able to see, turning inward, be able to see the inner realm. So when a parent sees it, it'll dissipate. But if they don't see it, then that program, there's something wrong with me, I don't belong, that is transferred and dumped into the child. And now the child has a program. This is another religion. This is another story that the child has not been programmed. So what is the point of the undoing, the deprogramming, the various techniques of the path of individuation, the alchemical marriage, the enlightenment, whatever? What is it about? Is it about undoing all that which causes a present time being to be trapped in time, to undo it, undo the false, undo the false, like the idea that there's something, that I am bad, that I'm inherently bad, born in sin.
Yeah.
And then the enlightenment comes from the flower of the soul, the essence that realizes itself in present time. Boom, you're in present time now. And you're experiencing everything that is arising. We're also going to, Jordan, if Jordan wants to do this, we're going to do a focusing session to
Totally.
to show you how this is done through focusing. So, Jordan, if you have any thoughts you want to share, and we'll run through some things that are kind of a list of things that and then we'll do a focusing session.
Okay. Do you want to address that question first, or do you want?
What do you think causes you to suddenly come out into reality? At least that's what happened for me. However, I didn't realize it at the time. What do you think causes you to suddenly come out into reality? You mean like, oh, I see, like to wake up. Well, I think it's the mortal world. I think we run into, because what happens in the inner realm, we get trapped within our inner realm, and the different aspects and selves and entities, whatever word. I don't like to use that word entity because it puts people into this funny space, but there are different aspects of ourself. There's the critical, the critic. There's interesting little aspects of ourself, and so anyway, all of that part inside of us gets trapped, and there's something wrong with me. That means the different parts of ourselves that arise, there's something wrong with them, and then the critic is grown, blah blah blah. So the mortal realm is reality. So at the end of the day, no matter what it is that you have going on in your inner realm, whether you believe the earth is flat or not, or you believe you're an Arcturian from planet Zork, or you're a horrible, unworthy human being. At the end of the day, the moon is still there. In the morning, the sun still rises, the wind still blows, and relationships still exist. And so, what causes the awakening is your inner realm hitting the wall, is realizing I got into this relationship and they left me. I don't know why they left me. Well, they left you because you have a complex. You have a self that's traumatized. So it is the discomfort,
Yeah.
and it is the what's the word I'm looking for? When you're just kind of at your wit's end, every kind of like, everything could be falling apart, or you just have this existential discontent.
Yeah.
Something is wrong, and this is what leads people to religion. And so that can be another trap. So the best way to do it, as I teach it, is to realize there's something wrong and go within and find out how your heart got broken. And then open up your heart to the universe and your connection to it all. You could use the Great Spirit, something much more universal, rather than a story that locks you into, this narrative that's complete fantasy. So this is why the Native Americans is a nice reflection. The Great Spirit, universal energy. I am one with all things. That's actually the truth. People can use that as this neat idea, but you actually are. Okay, so before we get into it, I hope that answers your questions. Just whatever's on your mind, and then I wanna get into some things, and we'll
Okay. Well, I wanted to say off the deprogramming, it comes, I think it's unique to every individual person. What works for me isn't going to work for the next person, or it might work for the next person. But what I'm saying is it's very individualized. I found, like, for example, somebody could just like reach a point in their life where they just have a breakdown, and then that signals like they're waking up. For another person, it could be, reaching rock bottom in another way. For another person, it could be something small and minuscule to somebody on the outside, but to them, it's catastrophic to a point where it forces them to look on the inside. So I think that it's very individualized how people wake up. Me personally, waking up, Zzenn was part of helping me wake up personally. Just like for me, it was just confronting everything that I thought was absolutely true beyond a shadow of a doubt, and just like questioning my certainties. And that really helped lead me inwards, and just to look inwards and do the inner work. And so for me personally, it was having it laid out in a way that made sense to me, because like for religion, for example, like it makes sense only until people start poking holes in a bunch of different parts of it. And then you start looking at it and you're like, it really is just a means of controlling people. And so for me, like with the religion, it started off like I thought that was all right. And then when Zzenn started poking holes in religion, and among other things, and the New Age and woo and all that sort of stuff, it forced me to take a real hard look at what was really certain and what I just thought was certain because of certain beliefs that I had growing up, or certain beliefs that I had developed throughout my life. So I think it's individualized, and that's just one thing I wanted to say off that.
Nice. Yeah. It's whatever takes you out of present time. And that's why the spiritual ideas and concepts that aren't aligned with reality in present time can become traps. Just another trap, anything that dissociates you from the psycho-emotional energy, I always point towards right here, right now. Spirituality is in your blood. The spirit is in the blood. It's not in some invisible, ethereal realm. There's the atmosphere. There's the whispering wind. But I believe the kingdom of heaven is at hand. It is here. And the spirit is your existence, your inner realm. And I do believe when we die, we go back to a home realm that's much more vaster, unspeakably vaster than this little ghetto realm that we live in. Tina says, I'm thankful to Zen too. I was on the inner path and he helped me know I was on the right path. Great.
Yep.
And that's the beauty of this message is all I'm doing is pointing to you.
Yep.
Giving you tools. Yeah. So you can look and see, you can't get more direct on the inner path than going direct inside of your inner path. What is it telling you? You know, what programs and stories that are going on inside of you, are they true or are they not? And are you able to understand its language?
Yeah.
See, stories are language. It's inner language. Are you taking it literal or are you interpreting the message of the unconscious?
Yeah.
And this would fall along the lines of Carl Jung's work in the archetypical language of the inner realm. So let's take a quick look at some things, and then we're gonna get into a focusing session. I'm gonna demonstrate some things that people can do to deprogram again, not just from a cult or religion or trauma-based mind control, whatever, but just deprogram from false beliefs inside of you. All of us, this is systemic. The powers that be run the world through the human false egoic self. And that's how they're able to manipulate the world is beings, human organisms, who are completely trapped in ideas that are not true. So let me share something.
One more thought I had on that is
Go
this
ahead.
is also why it's really important to, like, when you're trying to undo what's within, and say for me, I was raped at 7. So like that's, or maybe like a little bit before that, maybe when my grandma died was when my trauma really, really kind of started. And then after that, I was raped at 7. So for me, going back to that point in time and just being there with myself and realizing how I felt in that moment, you have to go back into that point in your life. Like you have to go back in time and work on yourself from like backwards in a way. Like you have to work from where you were first traumatized or where you think the trauma first happened or whatever you feel in your body. You have to go with that. And sometimes, and that's why, waking up is a huge process and it takes years for a lot of people, is that this is a whole undoing process that doesn't just happen overnight. You can't expect things like this to happen overnight, even in a year. For some people, for me, it's a work in progress. I'm still working on it to this day. So
yeah, it's tragic that we have to work this hard to just become ourselves.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It definitely is.
It's just heartbreaking to see humans trapped in a realm in which they are completely deluded by their own powers.
And it like you end up spending all this time working on yourself in order to wake up. And so that's probably why a lot of people don't end up accomplishing a lot, or they feel like they haven't accomplished a lot in their life, because they spent so much time either being deluded or working on themselves and trying to wake up from the delusion.
Yeah, like they're on one hand they're accomplishing things that are not themselves.
Yeah.
From a dad's or mom's version of you. And so you go on this mission to fulfill their version of you, or you're trying to just not just fall into a hole and get swallowed up in your own inner world. You're just trying to crawl up to just find you, but you got to get rid of all the hooks in you that are pulling you down through the trauma and everything.
Yeah, just to function sometimes, just to be able to function.
Just to function is a hell of a lot of work. Here's a couple things. So the formation of negative core beliefs, early trauma, childhood trauma, especially when involving abuse or neglect, can create deep-seated beliefs about oneself and the world. These beliefs might be, I am unworthy, I am powerless, the world is dangerous, I must obey to be safe.
Yeah.
Now, this is really an important thing to think about, because these are, in Scientology, they call them, like implants. Of course, Scientology is a cult. Eat the grapes, spit the seeds out. I'm an ex-Scientologist. There's some things I learned from Scientology that I applied and I got results from. But how do you deal with, let's talk about the commands. I remember that one of the things that saved me was positive affirmations. Now there's a positive and negative aspect to the positive affirmations.
Yeah.
So I'll give you the negative first. The negative is, I am, the most, you could have grandiose things about yourself, just trying to think of something. You make a statement that is beyond what you could possibly be, and it's just grandiose, right? And then you start believing it. I have $1 million. There's when I have $1 million, I now have $1 million. And you run around in the idea that you have $1 million, and you don't actually have $1 million, but you've been inherited this idea, like from The Secret or the Create Your Reality business, that whatever you say is going to be the case.
Yeah.
So this is the not so good side of that thing. Now you can use it in psychodrama. You can use your imagination to create incredible, fantastical things to release psycho-emotional energy inside of you through ritual, through psychodrama, through all these various things, knowing that you're releasing trapped energy and limiting beliefs. So use the imagination to allow it to flower out of you. But if you believe that you are going to become the president of the United States, when the chances are 1 in a quintillion, well, then you're in fantasy land. And people are like, oh, no, just don't have faith. Just believe anything's possible. No, not anything is possible. What is actually possible is the unlimited imagery that flowers out of your inner realm.
Yeah.
I can become anything, knowing that inside you can flower. So you got to reach for the stars. So, but specifically about commands, man, this was so difficult for me in my when I started to really undo things. Was I just gosh, there's so much, like the feeling of just, I'm unworthy. People don't like me. All these commands, are they real in the mortal realm? Is it provable, measurable? And when you find out that you're projecting on everybody and you start doing the work, and like, people don't really not like you, but they may not like you because you have this command that you're not likable, and then you project it and you create the reality in which they now, yeah, I do not like you now because you're weird, you're unhappy, So what I had to learn to do is find those commands and then specifically speak the truth. Interrupt it. The command is, you are no good, you're unworthy. You don't deserve success. You don't deserve a good relationship. And to reverse it, I deserve a good relationship. I am worthy. And you use the words, use your words, which is really an occult working. The word is a powerful thing. So with your words, you speak reality as it is. But with your words, be careful you don't speak reality as it isn't. I'm going to be the next American Idol. Just because you say that doesn't mean it's going to happen. In fact, most likely it won't. But you use your words and say, I am worthy. I have strength. I have the universe flowing through my body. The Kundalini exists inside my spine. I have a depth inside of me yet to be explored. I hold my head high as a being, as an expression of this incredible cosmos.
Yeah, we had these like self-improvement seminars that were mandatory in the boarding school I went to. And like, the reason they the mind control works so well is, in my opinion, they mix truth with fiction, as like in a lot of scenarios. So they had these things that they had us develop starting in the second seminar you would do, called Discovery, and they were called I am statements. And essentially they were a statement that you created yourself. They would say pick like 3 or 4, maybe 5 words that describe you at your inner core, like your inner child. They would go back to what they called your magical child. And so, there's a lot of bad things that happen in these programs. There's some like things that, you know, could probably be provably like by science that like work. But the reason they work is because they're sprinkling a little bit of truth in with a bunch of fiction.
Yeah.
So these I am statements, mine was, I'm an empathetic, loving, handsome, and powerful young man. Changed it to a man later on in my life because I'm a man. But so things like that. I am is a very powerful statement.
Yes.
I, talking about yourself. And then later on, they would have us do a purpose statement, which mine, I think I still actually live to it. And my purpose is to unconditionally love both myself and others while maturing through growth and integrity.
Yes.
So those things were like, they helped me because once I did that and I realized these qualities about myself that were always there. They started in my childhood. I always had these qualities, and just pointing that out. And they would even tell us, like in the morning, every morning, it was an exercise. Say your I am statement and purpose statement 3 times or more into the mirror, looking at yourself in the mirror, because eventually you'll start to believe that about yourself.
Yes. Yes. The Joker 37 says your contract.
Yep.
Yeah. That's really good. So again, here's the program. Here's the program. You don't have to be delusional to state. That's the thing. It's like actually who you actually are is pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Stating that, coming from what it is, the reality is, it has made you. So your heart's beating. You have breath. You work from base reality. So the truth interrupts the false contract, the false story, the false narrative, in which you, as a being existing in the breath of the present time, becomes trapped in.
Yeah, exactly.
But the downside is when one starts creating these grandiose, you know, that's where the trap is. That's what I went against with unspirituality, against the New Age, is this, now I can create anything I imagine. No, you're getting that confused.
Yeah.
Your imagination is there to move psycho-emotional energy. Yeah. When it comes to the mortal realm, there's limits. Knowing those limits is what creates grows wisdom.
Yeah.
But the truth is amazing, because who you are underneath the selves, underneath the programmed alters. Now we get into the big stuff. Trauma-based mind control is a lot more work for them. The alters. So this is like a much more advanced version of this programming, where you go down to the simplest aspect of this, and we have different aspects of ourselves. It's an ecosystem. It's a garden.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Program it, split it up, enforce trauma in each aspect of yourself. They become alters. And now these alters, you're split, and what was natively your allies have now become your enemies that have controlled the current of present time.
You become your own worst critic.
Yes, you've become trapped within your inner realm.
Yep.
Joker 30 says beta programming. Yes, we got into that on the first part of this little series about how the different aspects of mind control with the Monarch project and stuff. But again, it's a gradient. Monarch trauma-based programming is like worst case scenario, and then it roots down into the simplicity. Then you got generational child abuse. It all starts with the child, is the beauty of this. So, mind control reinforcement. Cults and other controlling systems exploit these existing vulnerabilities. So that's the first thing they do, is they go after innocence.
Yeah.
And they go after the young plant, the little shoot, and they grab it and they control it.
The earlier they can get somebody, the better for their programming.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it does start in the womb. Children can feel. You can be affected for your entire life from what happens in the womb. It'll program you. if your mother's taken, fentanyl, or if your mother's been beaten by her boyfriend, there's a lot of yelling and arguing. Of course, the child's going to be imprinted by her nervous system.
They might, and they probably don't even know why they feel like that.
No, they don't.
When it starts at birth, for sure, is because, I don't even know why I feel like this. I just have this overwhelming sense of dread, or just that I don't belong, or that I'm not good enough,
Yeah. So they use techniques like gaslighting, thought reform, emotional manipulation to reinforce negative beliefs. Here's the concepts about me and life. They are reinforced through gaslighting, which completely, their authorities create a false reality for them.
Easy to delude somebody with gaslighting. Very easy.
Yeah. So the authority, the parent, the handler, the cult leader, I'm not raping you.
Yep.
And this happens in conversations. I had this conversation with someone the other day, and I do not tolerate this because I know what it is. But I was having a conversation with him, and this person accused me of something. I said, well, I didn't say that. That's not what I meant. Yes, that is what you meant. It happens from infected people. See, these are infected people, not that they're bad, but it's systemic. And if people aren't aware and truth realized, they're infected zombies. So he's doing this is what you said. I didn't say this.
No.
So you're gaslighting. Now, if I wasn't strong, I would have succumbed to it and said, oh, maybe you're right. I am bad,
Start second guessing yourself.
No, that's where you need to grow one of these. Boop.
Yep. Yeah.
You need to find your fuck you. Your fuck you, not someone else's. So gaslighting, thought reform, convincing you of something that isn't true, emotional manipulation, that's what glues the whole thing together. And it reinforces these negative beliefs and instills new ones that serve their agenda. So what's the agenda? What's the agenda of, let's keep it in its simplest form, the agenda of childhood trauma? What is the agenda? Agenda is a will. Who's enforcing their will? It is a flow, an orbit of energy. It's the orbit of it's an orbit. It's a movement into a direction. Will. So where does the will? So your natural unfolding is the will of life moving into its own unique expression as you, thumbprint, the flower. But then an imposing will comes upon you, and that will is rooted in the unconscious shadow, and parents who aren't even aware of it are possessed by a will operating from the realm of the shadow and imposes it upon you, and now you have been overcome by the will of an authority.
Yeah.
You grow up, and you are now possessed by something other than your own true orbit and own true will. You are under mind control.
Instead of something on the outside, like possessing you and controlling you like a puppet.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not something out there. It's something from within.
And you haven't even been able to grow your own will.
Yeah.
Your own soul grows. Your own true orbit grows. And if it hasn't grown and you've been taken over early on, well, guess what happens when you get older? You're susceptible to other wills. And where does this go? Cults, religions, authority figures, shitty relationships. Because you haven't grown your will. What is the work? What is the Zzenn Mystery School that I am working on? Plug. What is the path about? Growing your will. What do we have from Aleister Crowley? Do what thou wilt is the whole of the law. That has been ripped apart. That is affiliated with the dark, bad things, just like the Catholic Church demonized the ancient pagan realm, pagan way. The natural way, the natural organic growth of the soul. Crowley did very hedonistic, creepy, crappy things. There's things that are said about him that may or may not be true regarding children. I don't know. What was he pointing to? is our will.
Yeah.
Now, Christians like to say, oh, you need to do the will of God. And, oh, they like to mock people. Oh, you're doing your own will. Do what thou wilt. Hey, oh, look at you. Well, just return back to them and say, aren't you doing your will right now, mocking me?
Exactly.
Because I don't think it's the will of Jesus. Plus, the Catholic Church's version of Jesus is a false one.
Yep.
The true, if there was a Jesus, was an initiate of the Grail bloodlines in the ancient world. And the will was the organic will of the universe. So you have generational child abuse is maintained because it helps control the masses. The child has been, their natural growth has been thwarted. Well, that tree grows in the shape of that aberration. And then they infect everyone else. That's your zombie apocalypse.
Yep.
It's right here. Infected humans infecting other humans because they're possessed by their unconscious and a self and selves that were meant to be expressions of their inner garden. They were trapped. And the selves within them became their own enemies.
And there's gradients to the like zombie apocalypse and zombies. Is like there's a gradient of like people that are just super deluded, right? And then there's people that are actually on drugs that will try to bite your face off on some crazy stuff.
Yeah. The what is it called? The Flocka.
Yeah.
Jesus. Holy wow, is that some nasty stuff? Flocka and crocodile.
Yep.
Some nasty things. Joker 37 says bull baiting and gaslighting are abusive, in my opinion. Yeah, bull baiting. That's a Scientology term. It's actually it's also a good way if you want to deprogram. Let me give you another deprogramming technique besides the affirmations. Like I said, I should go through these and set chapters in these. It's a lot of work, but the other one is in Scientology. One of the processes they will do is to bull bait you. For those of you don't know, I used to be a Scientologist, and Scientology turned into a cult. It got taken over by the RTC, which is a CIA organization, the Religious Technology Institute. I think Hubbard initially he had learned mind control techniques from mkultra. He was flipping it around and trying to use it to free human beings from mind control. And during that process, I think he got into, I think he got fairly deluded with his, the story. I know specifically how this thing changed in Science of Survival with the Thetan. And, but one of the ways to deprogram would be through the TRs. Yeah. Joker's 37 knows exactly what I'm talking about. Interesting.
Yeah, Joker 37 is actually one of my buddies from. He's a survivor. So
yeah, that's what I was thinking because he had said the contract, so I figured that was what. So with bull baiting, and this is actually a technique that I've adopted in my work too, and I haven't really brought this out yet. But one way to do this is to flatten your charge, the charge you have through childhood trauma by confronting the charge. And so what one will do is you'll sit there. And the person, it'll just you and another person, and you'll sit there in present time, right? Just being in the present time with breath. And when I do this stuff, folks, I was a Scientologist. It's like I'm influenced by it, but the way I do it comes directly out of my own. It's not like, oh, it's Scientology. This is really something that you can find naturally in how you deprogram is by confronting the shadow.
You have to
confront the shadow. You got to be willing to confront the shadow. So this isn't an exclusive thing to Scientology. So one technique that you can do is be willing to look at the devil in the eye, be willing to be wrong, and be willing to feel into, which we're going to get into with the focusing method, feel into the pain and see where it leads down into the root of the trauma. So this process is called the training routine 1, is you sit there with another person. Now, this person has been auditing you, so they're aware of your triggers. And so you decide on a trigger. Father used to yell at me and call me a sissy. And it gives me a reaction where I want to punch people. And I just got out of jail. That's what led me to Scientology, because I punched somebody, and I keep getting in fights with people. It's because it's specific people who remind me of my father unconsciously, who say or do or allude to something that causes a reaction, and I end up in jail. So now we're going to have we're going to do a training routine now, a process. And so this one person who has been working with the other person has been given permission to do this bull baiting process with the person who gets triggered. So this person here will sit in present time, be aware of what's around them, the breath, the heart beating. This person will now act like the father and call him a sissy, and will enact it in such a way to trigger the person that experienced the trauma. And so, you sissy, look at you. You're no good. Blah, 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 blah. And they'll do it for hours.
Yep.
Until the person, and so when they first start these, you're sissy, this person likes feeling like, and then they go, and then they pause it and go, okay, okay, let's do it again. Sissy, and the person, like, it builds and builds, and it builds and builds until they have a blow where they start crying or they start laughing, they have some type of a release, and flatten the charge. So then they go back out into the world, and those guys that were intimidating them and triggering, they no longer exist. So this is this is just a general fate confronting your shadow, but people don't always know what to do with the feeling, the psycho-emotional energy connected to this confront. What is the truth? This is what truth realization is about. The path onto truth realization. I'm now going to confront the false in me. And so this is where focusing comes in. We're going to do a focusing session here soon.
And one thing I had to say off of what you just said about the bull baiting, I can relate. The place I went, there's two things I wanted to touch on. One was this: we had these things called small groups that would happen like daily. We would have small groups, like a family small group in individual families, because there was like 4 boys families and I think 2 or 3 girls families. And each day we would have these like family meetings or whatever. And essentially it was attack therapy where if you had done something wrong, for example, or broken a rule, and somebody knew you had broken a rule and you didn't stand up and say, I broke this rule, I did this, this is why I'm not going to do it in the future, and this is why it was bad, they would call you out and be like, hey, so why didn't you stand up and talk about that? You're weak, and start yelling at you or stuff like that. And then we would have another form of that in seminars where it was just small groups of people, and they would start screaming at you and trying to get a rise out of you and saying, like, how did it feel when you were raped? And these people would know everything about you because they'd have a booklet before you went to the program that said, this is their trauma, this is what they've been through. So they knew what buttons to press. And so there was that I can relate to that. And then also there was a process called the lifeboat process, which was, if you ask almost any survivor that went through one of the WASP program specifically, it didn't really happen. It happened in other forms in the other places like religious schools and wilderness programs. But the place I went, it was a lifeboat process. And in this process, there was a circle of people and there was an inner circle. And what would happen is you would look the person that you're standing in front of directly in the eyes. And then they would say, okay, think of this person like the dad that abused you at the age of 7 or whatnot. And then they say, look them in the eyes and decide if they live or die. And during this process, you would have people screaming at you like the worst things you could imagine, trying to break you down. And then I had gotten enough lifeboats at the end of that where they pointed to me and said, okay, well, since you think you deserve to live over everybody else here, you got 5 minutes. Tell us why you deserve to live over everybody else. And the point of that, I firmly believe, was to break you down, because after I was able to go for like a good 45 seconds, and then I was like, I don't know anything else. I guess I'm not worthy. I guess I'm not worthy to live. And so that they'd use that to break you down. So a lot of attack therapy and just screaming at you the worst things you could imagine.
Yep.
And, you know, just to poke and prod and try and get a release. And they'd even have a process at the end of these seminars called the release process, where they would literally have you blindfolded, and you'd reach behind your back and pick up this towel that had been wrapped really tightly in duct tape. And you would take it, and you would have your eyes closed, and they would tell you, like, they'd have people like running around the room screaming at you, like, you're horrible. You're the worst person ever. You deserve to be raped and all that stuff. How does that make you feel? Let it all out. Let it all out. And so they'd have us pound the ground for hours, like literally hours. And by the end of that, you would feel completely drained, like completely just broken down. And so that's how they would break you in these seminars. And I thought that was very similar to
it's the vampiric process of stealing your soul.
Yeah.
They steal your soul by breaking the natural orbit will of your soul. And so then it freezes, and they've got you because they broke you down. They got you. You know, something that you had mentioned earlier, and how this initial way of getting you is having information about your inner realm.
Yeah.
This is where we got the evil Catholic Church with the confession booths. You've got in Scientology, they do the auditing.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this. Why it is so important to be your own best friend. Why it is so important to take your inner realm as your own sacred inner space, and confide in your inner realm through journaling. And whoever you communicate to, make sure it's somebody that you really know you can trust.
Yeah.
That you can really confide in. And don't open up your heart to just anybody. No. Protect your heart. And I know that there are like a lot of, new agey people are like, oh, open your heart and love everybody. Well, infected people will take advantage of your heart.
Yeah.
And so
leeches will always leech.
They'll leech, and even not because they're, Father forgive them, for they know not what they do business,
Mm-hmm.
That's what the serpent mind does. So you develop wisdom and the ability, the critical thinking ability, to be aware and to watch, just like a cobra, to protect your heart.
Yeah.
Because your heart needs it. Because your heart wants to love. And when your heart hates, it's needing to be protected and healed.
Yeah.
So this is so important, to keep your journals to yourself. Did you have the experience of you having your journals invaded when you were a child? Having your private space in your room invaded by your parents?
Yeah, I had it in childhood, and it also happened in the cult I was in. They'd let you journal, but then they would just randomly, they would do what they call basket searches. And during that process, they would take your journal and then not read every single word, but they would skim through it. And if they saw any word that was like, I don't want to be here, it's horrible here, or like, I'm suffering, this is horrible, like they would be like, they would call you out on it and be like, it's really not bad. You just think it's bad, and essentially gaslight you into now it's not bad anymore, is it? And then until you were like, no, it's not bad. I was making it up or whatever.
Yeah, Orthodox religious systems like to poo-poo the occult workings, occult magic. Like I say, I come from a bloodline of witchcraft. I'm the only one in my family that actually owns that. My mother told me that, and I also had ancestral memory as a child. But in witchcraft, which is just another form, there's different, it's all about being a mystic in the inner realm, whether you're a shaman, whatever system you're from, a Buddhist, whatever. For me, it's witchcraft. And so, especially when I'm doing music, I'm doing the craft. I'm invoking the four corners. I've got a circle around me, and I'm doing which it comes natural for me to do the craft. People say, oh, if you're a witch and you do the craft, you are part of a child torturing sacrifice. No, that is a distortion of the ancient world and the ancient goddess tradition and the matriarchal natural connection to all of life. So where I'm getting to is, what do you find there in the magic? You find a circle. That's your boundary of your inner realm. What do you find in religion? There's no boundary. There's no boundary.
Nope.
You are opened up. You are to give them your personal information. So as vampires, they can come in. And there's an interesting thing about the vampire. That's also been distorted. But the vampire will come in, and you have to give it permission.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
You have to say, come into my heart. You have to say, I will be baptized. I accept your God. The vampire comes in. You have to let me in, as that movie is. But the true initiate is one who will understand the natural way of the inner realm, which is universal, and they will have their circle. They will have their circle. I would be careful of people using light, white light. I would say I highly recommend using gold. Don't use white.
What is it about the gold?
It's a neutral color that brings. If you're using black and white, well, you're demonizing one versus the other.
Yeah.
And the gold is universal. It's a golden thread. So you don't want to be demonizing any of the dark forces.
Yeah. Just
These
allow them to happen.
aspects of you. Yeah, you have to feed them.
Mm-hmm.
They become your allies. Be careful that one doesn't become an enemy of themselves. You are the dark power, and you are the light power, and all the intervals in between. But the circle is for dealing with those vampiric infected humans that want to feed off of you.
Yeah.
So I think people need to be careful in the occult path. Is if you're putting a circle around you to ward off evil spirits, you're missing it.
Yeah.
All of those powers are yours. You know, the Goetta, all of this, the dark forces. Why am I forgetting the I'm trying to think of something, but anyway, it's the light and the dark, both beings inside of you are part of the same ecosystem.
Mm-hmm.
So what that circle is for is that you have an intact inner realm, so that you don't allow infected human animals to enter into your inner realm through devices such as through dark psychology.
Yeah.
That's what it's for. But people who think there's evil spirits running around, floating around, going to fly into their aura, my experience of missed the boat. It's not true. It's not true witchcraft.
Spiritual bypassing.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be, you don't have to call it witchcraft. The same stuff. Whatever tradition, ancestral tradition that your genes are native to, there's mystical Christianity, Gnostic Christianity. Same elements inside. Because our inner realm reflects our biology, and we all have the same biology. Arms, heads, legs. So it's universal, just like the Kundalini is universal.
Yeah.
The serpent power is universal. I want to see if I can find something here. Feel free to share whatever you want. I'm just going to see if I can. Oh, yeah, here we go.
Yeah, I actually had a poem that I wanted to read. I sent it to you. It's the one by Annika Lucas, but so here's the quote. It's not even a poem. It's just a quote. So it says elite pedophilia is the world's best protected secret, and it makes sense because the perpetrators need to ensure that you, the reader, will never focus on them. They prefer that we all just keep busy with the many distractions they throw at us to keep us divided. Dysfunctional siblings of the global family with psychopaths and narcissists for parents. We should do anything but look to the source of Western society's ills, which is the utter selfishness of the leadership, so extreme that it is an emotional disease, of which symptoms such as heartlessness and superiority turn its hosts into monsters. Those who do what it takes to belong to the power establishment are the most lost, the most emotionally infantile, the most broken, and the most evil among us. They do not deserve our trust, our confidence, our acceptance, or of their political savvy and expertise, or our admiration for their power or wealth. It is all just smoke and mirrors. If we can absorb the reality that many of the most rich and famous rape and kill children with impunity, how can we possibly continue arguing and vilifying each other over differences of opinion?
Nice.
Yeah, I thought that was a very powerful
Yeah,
quote.
that is very powerful. I'm looking for something here, and I will show you here in just a minute if I can find it. There is the Kabbalah, the Tree of Life, and then its reversed version. It starts with a Q to just kind of bring my point down. If you felt the Kabbalah was something that you wanted to. Is it?
Yeah, we should touch on it for sure.
Yeah, it's just one way. It's one way. Let me touch on it here. It is looking for it. Someone probably knows it. What I'm trying to get to. Let me find it. I think it starts with a Q. It's the spirits of the opposite. It's the demons of the Kabbalah. Reverse. What's it called?
I know what you're talking about. I just can't. The name is slipping my mind.
It starts with a Q, and this is really important to understand because people who get into the dualism and they separate themselves, they don't understand the way the dance of the forces of the universe is creation and destruction in itself is a creative act.
Yeah.
And so you are the demon and the angel. It's that's a very difficult thing for humans to understand because I'm going to go attack children and stuff. No, you miss that. Dark forces will help you protect children.
Yeah. Yeah.
They will give you the ability to do good. Reverse. What the hell is that? What is the opposite of the Kabbalah? The Klippoth. There we go. The Klippoth. Okay, let me show you what I'm talking about here. All right, here we go. Yeah, so we'll put the images up. All right, here we go. So stop the screen and we'll present. Now, again, this is stuff that's scary for people, but this is what, if you really, the true initiate is one who balances both the positive and the negative magnetic forces. It is the alchemical marriage, but people have to understand how to work with their shadow. But if you want true, authentic power, because that is what you are as a force of the universe, you're a force of nature, you have to understand your shadow. This is one way to understand it. But this is where the religious people run out, and people rooted in generational child abuse who are terrified of their shadow and believe, have certain belief systems. They don't know how to understand it. And we're going to do a focusing session, and that's how we're going to bring this to a close, which we need to get to. So we'll do that right after this.
Okay.
So this is the reversed side of the tree of life. As you can see, here's your Kundalini, the serpents, and these are basically the shadow powers. And so I'm not gonna, not gonna get all into this right now, but just letting you know they exist. The archdemons, the demon kings, this sort of thing, Lilith, and all that. The thing too, also to realize is that this has all been demonized too by the Roman Catholic Church in an effort to control it. They don't want you to have your power.
Yeah, it's just all bad.
In the Old Testament, the Satans and the angels, Satan's plural, were servants of God. Well, guess what that is? That's you.
Yeah.
So there's all these distortions in this where people become possessed by their own demons. Oh, I'm going to become a Satanist and I'm going to sacrifice animals and I'm going to do evil stuff. No, you are an infant on the path. You're not an initiate. You do not understand this at all.
Yeah.
You don't understand it. You're now becoming self-possessed. The true initiate. Why do they call them initiates? Because you got to be initiated through the shadow.
Yeah.
Through the light too. The light, it can be just as deceptive. The truth can be found in the darkness. Tao Te Ching, darkness within darkness. What is it? The source of all understanding. Why is it in the darkness? Because you see the light in the dark.
Yep.
In the light will blind you. So anyway, this is when you see these people, like especially the Hollywood scene, the witchcraft in Hollywood and all this shit, the Madonnas and stuff, and their connection to the adrenochrome crap and that evil shit. That's utter distortion of the inner powers. That's pure evil.
Yep. Yep.
But the dark forces that we're talking about, the dark forces, these are magnetic forces.
Mm-hmm.
And, if you're going to use them for evil, enjoy your karma.
Yeah.
All right. So let's enter into the focusing method. Okay. So
I have the focusing right here.
Oh, there you go. Good. I will recommend to people to learn about the focusing method. This is the one method that I teach, that I highly recommend. I find it to be the simplest, the cleanest path for doing inner work. There's no ideology to it. And the one book I'm going to recommend is The Power of Focusing by Ann Weiser Cornell. It can really break it down for you, nice and simple. But you can also go to give you places you can go. And I don't get anything from this. I just I want people to learn about it. I'm a black sheep. A little too late, but thank you. And hello, I haven't seen you in a while. So the focusing, the power of focus, no ideology, very simple. It's a short book, and I'm going to give you an example of that here. I also will recommend going to focusing.org. And this is the Institute of the Focusing Method, created by Eugene Jeneen, who personally gave me permission to put the focusing method in my first book, which I'm very proud of, before he died. And then focusing resources.com, Ann Weiser Cornell, and I highly recommend her. This is one of the core tools on the Zzenn path, and it's unique to the Zzenn path. So I don't really point people as this is. I mean, I don't. In the actual Zzenn mystery school, it's it's its own thing, and the way I describe it, you can make it your own. Your own. Once you learn the focusing method, make it your own. So I teach it as I've made it my own. And okay, so let's do a focusing session. So, basically what we're going to do here is what focusing is about is focusing on what is arising in and around you. So when you're sleeping at night, there's activity. There's things going on. There's adventures and people and places and things and stuff going on and feelings and emotions and right. And when you awaken, there's still this happening inside of you and around you, the sense of things in and around you that are occurring when what some people call the field. I call it the bioimagination or the Wizen realm. And so in and around you is activity. So typically humans wake up and they're in the mortal realm. So they're looking outward. They're not looking inward. They're looking outward. The key to this inner path is to be able to look outward and inward at the same time, like a figure eight. So you've got a flow going. So focusing is taking your attention, because you're like a ray. You got like a ray of a beam coming out of you, your eyes, or even just wherever you place attention. You can move attention to the back. Wherever you place attention, you can move it to your back. You can move it to your knee. You can move it to your elbow. You can move it to above you 3 feet. You can move it to the right, to the left. So typically people aren't, they're trying to get away from what's arising inside. So the heart's beating of no will of your own. The breath is happening of no will of your own. And activity from the inner realm is happening of no will of your own. So the focusing is a process whereby you focus on something that is arising inside of you that's trying to get your attention. And these are the things that live down in the underworld, in the unconscious, that are trying to bring to your awareness things that are running the show, commands, feelings that cause you just to feel terrified or confused or whatever it is. The unconscious is trying to bring it to awareness, so when it's seen, it dissipates and no longer is that pushing you around like a puppet. So when it is seen, it dissipates. And now it becomes something in your ecosystem, inner ecosystem, that is no longer filled with the charge in the unconscious that it's posing its will on you. So what we're going to do right now is we'll do a focusing session with Jordan. So Jordan, do you want to just do kind of just a general what is here? What maybe do I just to kind of be with what's arising? Do you have a particular thing that's arising that you want to say hello to? Or do you just want to say hello to your inner realm and say, what is it that is here?
Let's just go with the flow, and whatever comes up, comes up.
Okay. So typically when you do a focusing session, it's because you got an argument with your boyfriend and you don't know why, you just feel so angry. And so in the focusing session, you would say hello to what's the anger. You would close your eyes and be aware of what's angry, and then you would focus on it. And by focusing on it, it would allow it to begin to communicate to you, because that's the key, is the bridge, the communication. So it'd almost be better if you had an item that you could focus
on. Let's see. Let's focus on
something that's bothering you, something that you could maybe, you're talking about the city, some of the people in the city, how you feel when you're around people that bother you.
Let's work on just feeling triggered.
Okay. And what would be the triggering? What's the visual of the triggering? That somebody interacting with you on a bus, or what's the
just being downtown in general.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So go ahead and close your eyes, and you're gonna, you're closing your eyes because you're going out of the focus of the mortal realm and you're going into the inner realm. And so this is specifically the way I do this, folks. This is not the way, the general way that all focusing is, but Ann Weiser Cornell doesn't particularly do it this general way. So firstly, as you go within, just put your attention on your body. from the first thing, it's going to be your heartbeat.
Yeah, I can like see, like I can like both visually see in my mind's eye, and then also I can like feel like my heart beating, like thump thump thump
Okay.
thump thump thump. And then every time it beats, I'm seeing like different colors, but they seem to be a gradient of like starting off red, like thump thump red, thump
Okay.
thump orange, thump
Okay.
thump yellow,
Okay.
and they seem
And
to be
then,
alternating.
okay. And then we'll step into, because we're going to do more of a, this is going to be more of a, because typically if we were to do this not on live stream, we'd probably be here for a couple hours. So that Jordan would really be able to go deep into something. But what happens after a while is you're just doing it 24/7 now. But we're going to do a session. And so I'm just going to kind of move through it. Okay. So the first thing would be heartbeat. Next thing I want you to focus on this movement of breath. So the heart beating and the breath is happening. And then the next step I would like you to do is just, I want you to, like, from the top of your head, I want you to move your attention and the feeling down your head, down past your eyes, your nose, your mouth, your chin, your neck, your shoulders, your arms, moving down, 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 stomach. Again, we're doing this faster, folks, we'd probably do this a lot slower, but down to the waist, down your thighs, your knees, onward, downward to your feet. And I want you to push down through your feet. And I want you to extend it down about 5 feet.
I see like like a dot or something going up and down my spine.
Okay.
Whenever I breathe, and then I can like visualize like in with the breath going down to my toes. When I breathe out and exhale, coming out through the top, like either my mouth or like the top of my head, something like that.
Okay. Now, some people that start doing this, they may go inside and it's just nothingness and blackness. And that's really good, because whatever you experience is what you're seeing, because you're always, the inner realm is always a living, breathing manifestation of itself. So if there's nothing in there, nobody, nothing, well, you're breathing, and you start there and say hello to the nothing and the darkness and the numbness. So it is not about making something. Like you could listen to Jordan. Jordan is very vibrant inside. He goes inside and he's immediately, his inner realm is immediately just anytime I do a focusing session with him, he just he got a very active inner garden. So he can talk about the colors and everything very quickly. And that's where you want to get to a point where your inner realm's like, oh my gosh, I'm being seen, right? But you got to enter that dark forest, and this is what we're doing right now with the focusing. So you're going down 5 feet below your feet. I want you to pull it up. And keep going up through your head. I want you to go up above your head about 5 feet. And so I want you to extend that 5 feet above your head and below your feet up about even go up about a feeling sense of about 25 feet. And then I want you to, right where your navel is, I want you to focus on your navel. And again, we're doing this faster, folks, okay? I want you to extend out a line 25 feet to the left, 25 feet to the right, 25 feet from your navel out forward.
There seems to be a triangle connecting all of these points that I'm extending. In the very center, there seems to be a blue triangle.
Okay, beautiful. And so we have our points 25 feet out, and it can be further. It's the feeling out of length. an extended length. So the 25-foot mark pushes it out to where it'll just kind of dissipate after a point. Like you can kind of feel it and see the line about to the wall or so, and then it kind of dissipates. So we got the 25 above the head, 25 feet below the feet, 25 feet left and right, 25 feet in the front, 25 feet in the back. Okay, so we have this. Okay, we have these lines going out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 lines, 25 feet each direction.
Okay. Yeah, I can like see them in my mind's eye, the lines coming out.
Once I start doing this, I start breathing differently, and the energy starts moving through my body. So if you see me moving around like this, this is what happens. Okay, now I want you, as you're focused here, I want you to just now bring a presence of a sphere around you, a sense of a presence of sphere, the feeling of a sphere around you.
I see the sphere and I see it expanding outwards.
Mm-hmm.
It seems to be bluish.
Okay. So the kind of feeling that we're talking about is an example of this is when you walk into a dark room and you feel something behind you, like something is hunting you. That's the sense of a feeling sense, or a feeling of someone over there, or a feeling of a presence in the room. It's all happening in the field, in the projection of this sense of feeling around you. Some people say, "Oh, you, there's nothing out there that you feel." Oh, yeah, we feel stuff all the time out there, and it is a projection of the organism. Yeah, an organism is able to project itself out and around. So now, having established that, now you have this space here of you. You now have your inner realm in your space. So this is the realm. You've now opened up the realm in and around you. And there's an item here. And the item is in the city. And I want you to go ahead and just state what this thing is in which you would like to place your attention on specifically.
The suffering I see downtown.
Okay.
Definitely see red, a very dark crimson red. Almost like in my field of vision, but in my mind's eye. Like a sheet of red.
Okay. And how does this feel for you? That's the discomfort that comes. Where's the feeling of this in and around you? And what is the feeling? What is it? What's
starting from my heart, it is extending forwards and then coming out to both sides about 10 or so feet.
And what is the feeling? What is the disturbing? Is it a disturbing feeling? Can you describe what it is that causes you? It's when you go down there, what is arising in you that is wanting your attention, that doesn't feel, that's coming from the shadow?
A very deep sadness.
Okay.
Hopelessness.
Okay. Now, I want you to focus on the sadness and the hopelessness. And I want to invite you to locate it. Just say hello to it. I want you to focus, and I want you to say hello to it. And where is this sadness and this hopelessness when you say hello to it?
So hope is on the left side and sadness is on the right. Kind of like I see like spheres. One is blue, one is red on either side of my heart.
Okay. And the feeling of sadness and hopelessness. When you move into that feeling, where is it located?
Centered on my heart, my chest cavity area.
Okay. So say hello. The sadness and the hopelessness is in your heart area, and your attention is there.
I see the two spheres all starting to alternate colors. Blue from red, red to blue, and back and forth, vice versa. They seem to be alternating in some sort of like current. If I were to describe like the pattern of the current, I would say it's like almost like an infinity symbol.
Okay.
So like, but coming across, so like this.
Okay. And then the feeling in your heart of sadness and hope as you're in there, as you're in this space with it. How is this for you?
I feel it very strongly. Doesn't seem to have a color to it. I just see dark. I guess that could be a color. It's dark,
Okay,
very dark.
so it's in your heart, in your chest, it's dark. And as you put your attention on it, being with it, so I want to invite you to just be directly there with it. And then describe as you make that connection. Describe what it looks like. Does it change? Is there a shape right now? There's a darkness in your heart. So
I see like almost like the sun, like when it's shooting through clouds, how you can see like rays of light coming through the cloud, but you can't see the light all the way. I see like yellow light, yellowish white light almost emanating out of the darkness.
and where is this located?
Right in my chest cavity, right here.
Okay.
I notice the more I'm paying attention to it, the more light I'm seeing shine through the darkness.
Okay. So if you were to ask your sadness what it needs,
it wants to be heard. It wants to me to realize that I'm not alone in this, and that there is hope.
and how's the feeling of it in this moment?
I feel lighter. I'm feeling a shift in my stomach area. Like a shift, like I could really like physically feel the shift. Not sure what it is, but I feel a shift in my stomach area. Seems to be rising up towards my chest. Almost like a blue current, like a wave from the ocean, kind of like residing up into my chest. And when that's happening, I see a lot more light coming through, almost to a point where you can barely see the darkness anymore.
Okay.
Another shift just happened right here in my stomach area. When I just took a breath, it lightened up a little bit more. There's barely any darkness left in this chest area.
Okay.
I feel that feeling inside my chest feels that it's heard and seen now, and it's very thankful that that I'm seeing it.
Okay.
Almost feel the urge to cry, but I don't think that I will cry. But I feel like when you're just when you're about to cry, but you're not crying, that feeling right there is what I'm feeling right now.
Okay. So it feels too on this end like appreciation. Like for me, there's this appreciation for all that has happened in this experience inside of you. How does that feel for you, bringing this to a close?
Yeah, I feel appreciation. I feel seen, if that makes sense. Like not me as a person, but what's within me. Like I feel that it feels seen. I feel it's very grateful. I feel gratefulness.
Nice.
To be alive, to have made it this far. But then there's also a part of me that, and I feel it very minutely, but it's definitely there. A part of me that hopes that other people can come to feeling like this, but also sadness for the people that are still stuck
Right.
in this, still stuck with their thoughts, still stuck with their delusions, whatever it may be. I feel the pain of that.
All right. All right. Well, thank you. And thank your inner world too. I appreciate everything that happened there. You know, so when I say like my appreciation, just in case people are wondering, that is not me bringing an auto suggestion into the focusing method. I'm not doing anything but just sort of like being present with him as he's going inside and seeing what's happening in him. But if I share my appreciation, my experience in this, I was appreciating how the inner realm and the movement of everything was happening and the language and everything. So Jordan is very fluid in the way this happens. And so a lot of people, when you get into this, it's not as fluid. And so that's the idea, is to get it to get things where there's movement in the inner realm is trusting. There's trust happening here. It's okay. You can show me. You can bring to awareness what's happening in here, and you're not going to suppress it or shame it or tell somebody about it. This is important to protect this space. Protect, because your inner realm wants to be able to trust what arises in your awareness. And so this is why it's a relationship with yourself. It takes time to do this. And it's just like, think in terms of the spiritual path, the inner realm path, like the speed of a plant. It grows organically in its own way. And so that's really the key. All right. So we got about 15 minutes left. If anybody has any questions or comments, I start releasing down on my base of my spine. I could do yoga positions when this stuff starts happening.
Oh, yeah, it's weird. It's crazy. Like your muscles on it. I feel lighter. You know what I mean? It's hard to explain, but I feel like a little bit lighter when I do this.
Yeah.
And I also feel like my muscles aren't not that they're cramped all the time, but I just feel like a relaxed ease.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And the spine will tend to straighten too when the psychoemotional energy is moving. And this is what you see with the Buddha and the pharaohs, and you see it throughout different places around the world, because the psychoemotional energy works in the same way, and the spine straightens in its same way. And it's because we all have the same biology and the same physics of the inner realm. So, but all of it, it's universal. So, thank you, Jordan, for sharing that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, it was a pleasure. It's always a pleasure working with you. So, if anyone has any other questions or comments, that's there's a lot here. I think we did about an hour or so, but there's a lot here to chew on and to explore. It's about getting to the truth, having a genuine love for the truth, and then knowing how to get to it. And it is the psycho-emotional energy that is where the work takes place, because it's the psycho-emotional energy that causes us to that's your labyrinth. That's where it causes the delusions and all of this stuff. It's working through that stuff, and you feel this way, you feel that way, but unless you have techniques and you know how to breathe into that psycho-emotional moment, you don't know how to. If you don't know how to do it, well, then you'll be running around, like, what do I do? Going to this religion and that religion, and this cult and that cult, and But the beauty of the whole path really is to give yourself permission to fail and fall, and to read stuff and eat the seeds and eat the grapes and spit the seeds out. All things permitted, harm none, including yourself.
Yeah.
And that is really the most important thing. So, if you want to, by the way, I have a conversation with Kimberly this Wednesday.
Nice.
And we're going to be talking about. Kimberly is an amazing being, and she's got an amazing story. She's a powerful witchy woman, and so we're not quite sure exactly what's going to happen there. But Wednesday there's gonna be a conversation with her, and I'm just excited about that since I have this new booth.
Yeah, I like it.
In the library, I can actually have interviews and conversations. So this is fun.
And we can show stuff on the screen. I really like this. Yeah.
Yeah, it's the first time since I've been in the van life that I've actually had a place to do it. They had a big room over here in the library, but it was just too big, and I don't know, it just did not like it in there. But this little cozy place is, pretty neat. So, well, we kept about an average of, I think, 4 or 5 people throughout so yeah. So a few people watched, and then I'll go ahead and link these two together. So the first one will go into the second one, and then of course I will send I got to send the video to you. I got to remember to send that to you tomorrow. Did you upload the last one yesterday?
I'm gonna upload it sometime this week. But yeah, it's gonna be up on my channel soon, for sure. I think that this message is very, very powerful and very, very needed, especially with everything going on in the world right now.
Yeah.
And I think it was very well received. So
yeah, with the alien invasion and everything, this is nice to have. It's good to have, got to have this healing going on before we get completely invaded by aliens.
Speaking of that, what's your opinion on these drones they've been seeing?
Well, I've been talking about a staged alien invasion, that they're planning a staged alien invasion for quite a while. I don't know. I think the thing that is most disturbing is the idea that apparently there was some radiation levels had gone up in New Jersey, and that these were actually radiation sniffing drones, and they're finding them all over the place. They're finding them in Pennsylvania. They're finding them in California. We had some in Arizona. One shot down another one here in Arizona. Wow. Some of these now there's a mix, because there's drones and then there's craft like people have been seeing that are doing crazy things. Like this truck driver, there was one chasing a truck driver, and it did like this 90-degree, it went like this, and that's typical UFO activity. It'll be going this way, and then it'll do a 90-degree and shoot that way. So it seems to be that there's a mix going on, and they're also finding out that it's happening all around the world right now. It's happening in China, it's happening in Russia, it's happening all over the place. So it's like we're having an alien invasion, so to speak. But how much of this is is it okay? They're nuke sniffing. What if these aliens, let's just say, what if it is actual aliens? What if it's something like that? And the drones are there to pick up when these crafts show up, and to relay back to the bases, hey, these craft, because here's another interesting, like I say, whether it's a staged one or not, because there's different levels of the government, and lower levels of the government are not going to know what higher levels of the government know. So it could be staged and they're coming in. But the other interesting thing is the War of the Worlds, the original radio, what do you call it? The release of the broadcast of the War of the Worlds, where it freaked everybody out. Apparently, it was located in New Jersey, and the Tom Cruise War of the World, if apparently was in New Jersey. So you got the
Wow.
predictive programming. So now we have New Jersey, and everybody's freaking about. So what's going on here? So we right now, what I'm, and then there are some of these so this is where I go from drones to the UFO thing. There's video of these UFOs, and this was on various platforms, where they're shooting down like these beams, like they're firing these beams. Then there was these other ones that have this mist coming out of the bottom of them. So this is very holy wow, because the drones could be involved in monitoring the craft. And what are we dealing with here? Because we had one shot down here in Arizona 2 nights ago.
Wow.
By another one. They're calling them drones, but there's some of them. It's like, well, they're not acting like drones at all. They're not at the speeds that they're moving. And then there's reports of some of these coming out of the water. Well, I don't know of a drone that goes underwater and flies up out of the water. So we could definitely be on the verge of an alien. I've been saying for years that we're in a soft alien invasion of some kind. So could there be man-made type of android creatures? Could there be some type of a chimera thing? Could there be real benevolent alien races who are our genetic parents, watching over us and trying to protect us from the monkeys at the top of the food chain trying to control us with their fake alien invasion? So I could go through a lot of different things. I don't know. I'm watching. It's crazy, man. We live in interesting times. Shaba says, I have normie friends that are getting weirded out by my UFOs now. The Jesuit program of creating a one world government is coming soon. Yeah. That's the magic word, the Jesuits.
I personally, I've even seen like UFOs like start as like a orb of light and then have a bunch of lights emanating. And then I've seen one that I actually have on video with my best friend that went into a cloud on one side as a UFO and then came out the other side as like an airliner, like looked like a Boeing 747 or whatever. And I have that on film. And then also the whole coming out of water thing. I've seen that firsthand, and I have video of that, like just like them descending into. There's nothing down there but water. So, like, are they coming from the water? Are we looking too far into space when we should be looking?
Are they hologram? Are some of them holograms?
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? And listen, I got to bring this to a close. I got about 3 minutes. My little rental spot is over. I've got my 2 hours. So. Thanks again. I really enjoyed this. Let's do it again. Make this sort of a regular conversation. Maybe we'll get into some other things. I think it'd be fun to talk about the alien invasion. Maybe we'll do that next. We'll have a 2-hour thing on that. We'll see. All right. I want to thank everybody for being here and hope this was useful to everybody. Stay tuned for next Wednesday for the conversation I'm going to have with Kimberly. She's an amazing warrioress. And I look forward to seeing you guys then. Jordan, we'll talk to you later. Thanks, everybody.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye.